Throughout history, our civilization has evolved, often for the better. However, there are those people that we all know have been on the wrong side. It is inevitable that women and young girls will reach full equality, probably in your lifetime. I'm not talking about the type of equality that's legislated. I'm not even talking about the type of equality that exists in public when you're having public conversations and you're trying to be politically correct. I'm talking about the type of equality that takes place when nobody is around to listen, when you're having your conversations with your guy friends. I'm talking about the type of equality that exists in your hearts and in your minds. Do you know that 1 out of 3 girls will be sexually assaulted in their lifetime? And 1 out of 3 teens know someone in their peer group who has been physically abused, sexually abused, or coerced into sex against their initial intentions. But staying out of trouble is not enough. Getting on the right side of history is everything. So if you want to protect your sisters, your aunts, your mothers, and even our daughters, go with me, if you will, for the next 30 minutes as we learn about what the law says about sexual assault and abuse towards women and being on the right side of history. And being on the right side can make the difference between that side and this side.
Tony Farmer at the All-American FAT, Cleveland Open Run, up at Garfield Heights, my high school, where I play at. Good practice. I'm in a good run today. Everything's doing good.
Tony Farmer's talent on the basketball court made Garfield Heights High School senior one of the top college recruits in the country.
The defendant shall serve a term of 3 years, which is the minimum.
But the 18-year-old Farmer may have forfeited a scholarship and his future when he attacked his ex-girlfriend in her apartment building in Bedford Heights on April 23rd.
My life changed completely. I got sentenced to prison for 3 years. I affected my family, my friends, my victim. And that helped me every night. I go to sleep, I pray. I need help. I need to control my anger. I need to think before reacting.
I don't know what was wrong with him that day. I know he was a good person. I hope he still is. I hope he learns from this.
The court orders that the defendant shall serve a term of 2 years on that as well.
When I was growing up, yes, I seen violence in my home. Me and my brothers watched my mom get beat on a daily basis by my father. I made 3 promises to my mom: that I would never put my hands on a female, I would never come to prison, and the third, I will go to college. I passed out of court because I just seen my life go down the drain.
How does Tony Farmer, the #1 high school basketball player in the state of Ohio, in the top 100 in the United States, being recruited by all the bigs, University of Michigan, Louisville, Ohio State, and many more, even mentioned by the king himself, LeBron James, as a rising star, popular amongst his peers, parents, student groups, end up in a place like this? I know what you're thinking. That ain't me. Well, if we were to take Tony and put him back in time a year ago and put him in a classroom like this, sitting right next to you, he would say the same thing. When we're done with this video, some of you in this room are going to say, "Oh my God, that is me." Well, why are we talking to you?
You talking to me?
Well, we're talking to you for one simple reason. Athletes are always taught, whether you're going to play basketball, hockey, track, whatever it is, you've got to be aggressive. You've got to go after it. But the problem happens when we take that aggression outside of the playing field and outside of competition, and it enters our relationships that it becomes unhealthy. There are occasions that even coaches precipitate this aggression, particularly in male athletes, with their female partners or partner period. How does that happen? When you have a coach that speaks to an athlete and tells them that if you're not performing to your maximum level of aggression in your particular sport, you're being a...
You a pussy?
Do I look like a pussy to you?
You're a pussy.
Get where I'm going with this? And so what that coach has done unwittingly and sometimes knowingly is planted the seed in the athlete's mind that the opposite sex or a partner is less than. Lao Tzu said this: thoughts precede words, words precede actions, actions precede habits, and habits define a character or characteristic. So let's talk about it. You say, well, aggression, that's a good thing. Yes, in the right context. But when we go to the playing field of a relationship, abuse translates in several different ways. But it first starts with a thought. And what are those thoughts? Marginalization. What is that? Years ago, I went into a barbershop and I sat down, and everybody in a barbershop, and I would submit even a hair salon, is an expert on something. And so as I'm sitting there, this older type gentleman, looked like he was 60 or 70, sits down in a chair, and he looks like a typical Eastern European ethnic that works in a factory, and he simply began to spout this off in his wisdom as only he saw it. He said, I would never vote for a woman for president. And as he said that, I just asked him, why? And then he said, well, you know, because they have that monthly thing and they're so emotional. As I heard what he said, my blood began to boil, and I suddenly realized that this individual had marginalized women. Maybe it was from an era of a generation gone past that we still live with today, where we see women having less value. And so I immediately challenged him on this, and I said, well, do you know who Angela Merkel is? Or what about Golda Meir? Or what about Hillary Clinton? Well, he knew about Hillary Clinton, but he didn't know about the other two, and that they had been leaders of very successful countries. Well, I wasn't getting anywhere with this gentleman, so I simply just stopped, and I stopped the presses, and I asked him this question. I said, sir, do you have any children? And he said, yes. I said, well, would any of them happen to be female, like daughters? And he said, yes. And then I knew I had him right where I wanted him, and I was going to slam the door on all his ignorance. And I just asked him, sir, how would you like it if someone told your daughters what they could or could not be because of their gender? Silence. That's the point. And that's the thought that many people have before it plays over into their actions that in some cases can end up in violence. Let's look at the other one, objectification. That's when players, athletes, and even some non-athletes look at women as simple tools to their satisfaction, the means to an end, the means to get their needs met, even if it means as a result of hurting or demeaning or dehumanizing another. Those are the thoughts that we really need to get our minds around, because those are the things that precipitate words and conversation that we speak, like the guy in the barbershop. And if we're not careful, it spills over into our actions, it becomes a habit, and it becomes a character. I submit to you, because of the media, television, movies, radio, you name it, magazines, we're often impacted by these images that play out in our thoughts. You've got to be aware if that is a part of you, so you can begin the process of what we call exfoliate, to get that dead skin off and get in the real world.